Very good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the TheP-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself. He's all fired up. You could tell. Michael Angelo. Michael, how we doing, dude? What's going on?
We're good, man. Well, we'll be back in the building tonight. I was very graciously an opportunity came up to grab a ticket for tonight's game, and I am very, very excited. Hopefully, bringing the brooms out and finishing a sweep of the Penguins. We'll chat about that for a bit, but that will definitely not be the total star of this show. We have some more pressing matters that are mostly bad. The Sixers suffered a tough loss last night. The NFL draft is in full swing, and the Eagles have made some pretty, you know, assertive. Is that the word I want to say? Maybe some like confirming sort of draft selections, I guess we could call it. They also made a pretty massive trade that seems like it was done for weeks, but just not announced until today or yesterday, excuse me. And then we have the Major League Baseball team that happens to play in the city that is doing horribly. So a lot to talk about today, but I do want to kick us off with Game 3 of the Sixers and the Boston Celtics last night. So the Sixers fell to Boston 108-100 in what was a game that just felt all too familiar. This feels like a game that the Sixers have lost to the Celtics in the playoffs, like especially at home, like at least 5 times in the last 8 seasons. It's maddening, it's damning, it drives me absolutely insane. Nothing infuriates me more than a Jason Tatum dagger, which he's just hit far too many at this point against the Sixers. And it sucks, man. It really, really does suck. They had a great opportunity to get up 2-1 before Embiid comes back, which I really think is going to be for tomorrow, Sunday, Game 4. That was a bit of a story entering the game. He was doubtful the day before, but that's kind of meant nothing all season. He's been doubtful 5 times. He's played in 2 of them. So, definitely not the first time. It wouldn't have been the first time if he played through it. But he just never got medically cleared. He's been lifting according to Nick Nurse. He's been cleared for, running and whatnot. And he said he could do a lot of stuff on the basketball court, but the doctors did not medically clear him. And that is, as big of a stop sign as you could possibly have. But it felt like if he was cleared, he absolutely was going to play. And he just wasn't cleared yet. So to me, I'm assuming he'll be cleared for Sunday if they let it go on for as long as they did yesterday. And we'll see. We'll hopefully even this one up heading back to Boston. But without Embiid, they really put up another great effort. Again, a series where they're very much overmatched. They played really well. And, that was a different type of game last night than what games 1 and 2 were. The Celtics couldn't really miss their threes. They hit 11 threes in the first quarter or first half, and they hit 7 or whatever in the first quarter. It was ridiculous. But the Sixers never got down by, I think, double digits at any point in the game, which is just a testament to how the Celtics really were struggling to score besides the 3-pointers early on. Derek White continues to be very poor for the Celtics offensively, and I think that's a big catalyst for the Sixers at this point. He's just not shooting well, and that's been kind of keeping them in games. But There's a couple big takeaways, I think. Other than just like the typical, this game's close. The Sixers do some really two to three stupid plays. Edgecombe took a bad traveling. They had a really lazy bad turnover that led to some points, and then like you allow an offensive rebound in a bad spot, and it's all too familiar. Jason Tatum hits a dagger, and it's like great. But there were a couple key reasons on why you lost, and the first one I want to get out of the way quickly because it's hard to put a lot of blame on a 20-year-old, but VJ Edgecombe just did not play nearly like his best game. It was kind of a bad performance. He shot 0 for 7 from 3. That's just hard to deal with, and it's not like they were all tough ones. Like a few of them were blatantly wide open that he just missed. He turned the ball over pretty carelessly a few times with a couple travels, and you know, just frustrating in that regard. Not being able to knock down his open jumpers that really could have turned a tide. But again, when you're putting that much faith into a 20-year-old to win you multiple games in a playoff series, sometimes it's just like it's probably not going to go your way as much as you would hope, and that's just kind of a lot to put on a 20-year-old. So I can't really get too mad. It's just is what it is, and it's really frustrating. But what I can kind of get more rationally annoyed at is as good of a game, as solid of a game that a Dembona played, truly like was getting some big blocks on the defensive end, was actually able to kind of put the ball in the basket a few times, was getting to the free throw line and was knocking down some. He just went into like his mode of fouling way too much, and him getting into foul trouble allowed Drummond to play like a good amount of more minutes. He played like I think 27 minutes to bonus 22, and Drummond was a minus 17 in 27 minutes, and Bono was only like a minus 4, I think. He might have been even up. You know what? Let me pull it up just so I'm accurate, because that really was the difference. Like Drummond hit some huge corner threes that helped out a ton, and he had some big cleanup duty dunks that were great. Yeah, sorry, I was way off. Drummond was a minus 17 in 26 minutes, and Adembona was a plus 9 in 22 minutes. He was the only Sixer that was positive in the plus minus category. Um, and that's really annoying. That's really frustrating. You lost by 8 points, right? And they're, a Dembona plus 9 to Drummond minus 17, and that's a huge swing. Um, Drummond just is too slow to be out there when the Celtics go with one of their centers that can shoot, and it's usually Nikola Vucevic, and that was getting exposed a lot where he's helping too much on a screen and Vucevic flares open, and whether it's him knocking it down, which he did hit a couple big threes, it's either that or it's they pass it to him and someone's got to help off and you're letting another shooter get wide open. And that was really killer for you. Drummond really wasn't a presence in the paint either last night. And that I think cost you the most. And what I think I would have liked to have seen is when Bona got into foul trouble, instead of just immediately turning back to Drummond, is maybe going to Barlow and running a small ball lineup and just kind of hoping that would have worked out. But I know that there were rebounding concerns, so I get why a little bit.
Yeah.
But
So
Drummond was just so bad.
So yeah, I mean Drummond's at the end of his career. We can't. I'm not trying to make excuses for Andre Drummond,
I mean,
but
he's not that old. He's only like 30. Like it's not like he's ancient. It's just or 31. Like he's Embiid's age. It's not like
yeah,
he's
but like if you look at the NBA now, dude, it's almost like NBA. So like 20 years ago, like in college, it was really rare for teams to have like true centers, right? In like college basketball. So when there was like a center that was really good, that guy would always get picked like top 5, even if he wasn't like that great of a player. It was just
sure.
because we need a. It was like the thought process was we need a center, and now that with basketball analytics now, like, and I think especially with the Golden State Warriors with running their small ball lineups, you don't really need centers anymore. Honestly, you don't need a center,
it's a different game, and like you
It's a
need to
different
be
game,
able
and it does
to.
feel like you basically need like a stretch four and a true four, and you can play your true four as the center, just because you need that someone who is athletic to go swing and cover all the ball. Like you see in the NBA, there's so
Yeah,
much
I mean,
much more spacing and ball movement, and
yeah, even like Neemias Queta, who can't shoot, but he can definitely move a lot better than Drummond can. But that's just a better matchup to tie in two guys where Queta is not just going to be. He's just not going to be at the 3-point line because he can't shoot, and that's a big beneficiary for having Drummond in the game. But they got Queta into foul trouble, and they were running a lot of Vucevic minutes, and just stretching the floor. Drummond wasn't able to keep up, and you saw how much better Bona was yesterday, who still made some pretty like mind-boggling bad plays at times. But you'll take the polarizing play if he's
right.
like a plus nine in a
Can I
situation.
tell you a really demented thought I had during that game?
Yeah, what do you got?
If the Sixers had beaten the Celtics last night, go up 2-1, bringing Joel back in game four, what realistically, I thought this was going to be like Celtics and six, right? Let's say the Sixers were to go up 2-1 and Joel comes back and they lose three straight games. Michael, could you imagine the discourse that would have come out
Oh
of
yeah, I mean, yeah, that would have been, and it's like it would have been one of those things where, again, as overmatched as the Sixers are, even with Embiid, it's still like wouldn't have been totally. It's not like it wasn't like out of the realm of possibility, obviously. But it's another frustrating part of the game was, I guess, Paul George's like passiveness to an extent. Like he took a few jumpers early, and it was like a pure stroke, like nailed all three of them, perfect swishes, and like he's just not asking and demanding for the ball. And it's like I I I need you to kind of take over a little bit here. Like he only took 12 shots last night, and or sorry, he only took 14 shots last night. He really needed to take like 20. And it's just because he was cooking. He was playing really well. He was 4 for 7 from three. He was 7 of 14 from the field. He was finishing well around the rim. His drives were creating a lot of offense because they were helping off, and he was dumping it off to Drummond, who had some big dunks. And it's like, please, man, like it didn't really happen until the fourth quarter where Nurse just kind of put the ball in his hands, and he was cooking a little bit. And it was like, dude, you could have been doing this the whole game and could have put us in an opportunity to, be ahead in the fourth quarter for most of it instead of coming from
well,
behind.
Michael, I hate that, and I'm not excusing Paul George either. I'm putting this more on Nick Nurse for not trying to, be like, not
Yeah,
trying
no,
to.
and listen, I hear you, man. I totally hear you. I think that's valid.
He
I
wants to
just
run
think,
the offense 100% through Maxi, which,
yeah, it's just like the fourth quarter he didn't, and it was working, and it was like, man, I would have just
yeah,
liked to have
I
seen
mean,
a little
I
earlier.
think after this series, I think we need to come to terms with the fact that, and I said when we first hired Nick Nurse, I was excited because he obviously won an NBA
No,
title.
we were really excited. We
We're
thought we
excited.
were getting.
I think we've come to the realization that the Toronto Raptors won an NBA championship because Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the NBA in the 2018-2019 season.
I mean, that was just a great team, like top to bottom. It was a really, really loaded, like defensive first team, and like their offense did struggle. Like it was similar offensive struggles where if it was like, if Kawhi or a young Pascal Siakam wasn't cooking, they were in trouble any given night. But defensively, it was just like, you know, Lowry was such a pest, and then you have Kawhi and Danny Green and Siakam and Serge Ibaka and like Marc Gasol. Like that team was loaded defensively.
And there was OG Anuabi on that team too.
Yeah, OG Anunoby was on that team, but he was very young. He didn't play in the playoffs because he had the appendectomy. Funny enough,
Uh,
but yeah, that team was loaded. Norman Powell was there. It was a really good team. But yeah, I mean, the Celtics adjusted. They weren't playing super deep drop coverage as much, but Maxey was taking advantage of that early by just blowing by the centers that were pressing up. So then it put them back into a little bit of an uncomfortable bind. And I ultimately they just lost because the Celtics made more plays down the stretch than the Sixers. Like it
Well,
was
I mean, I looked at I watched I mean, I watched, I watched a lot of
good
the
chunk of the game.
highlights and they
Yeah.
checked the box score. And the one thing that stood out to me was, Michael, the Celtics just knocked down more threes than the Sixers, and they were perfect from the line for almost the entire
Yeah,
game.
they missed one free throw. Sixers missed like they didn't miss a ton. They only missed four, but like Paul George and Edgecombe didn't shoot any free throws. And like that's tough, because I did feel like Edgecombe I do think he gets he's a rookie, so he gets a pretty shitty whistle. But um it's just annoying. It really is. There was definitely a path to steal another game without Embiid, and then you get him back, and like I do think when Embiid gets back, it's gonna put them in a bind of hell a little bit because there's you're just not gonna be able to play those defensive coverages when Embiid's the one setting the screen instead of Drummond. Where Drummond sets the screen, Bonus sets the screen, and they have nowhere to go but roll. They're not popping and flaring out for a potential three at the top of the key. Like that's just not happening with those guys. And they're gonna roll to the hoop every single time, and it's so predictable. But when you have Embiid, it just opens up that whole new wrinkle where if I had to guess, Embiid's gonna get like he might take 6 threes on Sunday because I do think they're just gonna be open for him to take. And if he's like consistently knocking them down, it's really gonna put the Celtics in some issues because they're gonna have to switch. Really have they're probably gonna want to go small and like switch on Embiid, and then if they go really small, then Embiid can work out of the post. Like it's a adding obviously, but, like, adding a guy like Joel to this lineup currently is definitely gonna be a game changer as much as the Celtics wanna pretend like it's not going to be. It definitely is, and, like, if Embiid's not gonna be fully able to, do his thing offensively, what he has shown in the playoffs over his career is that if offensively it's not going his way, defensively, he's still extremely locked in and can still prove to be one of the best defenders in the league if he's, fully committing a lot of the energy towards it. And I think that alone too could be extremely, extremely impactful where it's like they just can't, get anything going towards the rim and scoring that way. So we'll see. We will see. But they definitely let an opportunity slip through their fingers last night. It was really, really just frustrating through and through. Um, Hopefully Embiid's back Sunday. I really do think he will be, but I guess it's not guaranteed until he gets medically cleared. But tough loss. They're down the series 2 games to 1. Hopefully they can tie it up going back to Boston and, maybe steal another one they'll have to steal another one on the road at least if they want to win the series and pull off a pretty big upset. So that'd be pretty cool. But that'll be it for the NBA today. The playoffs as a whole, by the way, have been like largely entertaining. I know there's been some blowouts here and there that has been tough to watch at times, but pretty much all series besides like Lakers Rockets last night was an awesome game. The Lakers ended up winning. They're up 3-0 in that series, but that game was incredible. Um, the Thunder are really kind of hammering away on the Suns, but every other series is 2-1 right now, and it feels really competitive. That Knicks Hawks game in on Thursday was very, very good, and the Cavs Raptors was a nice game there in Game 3. The Timberwolves Nuggets have been entertaining games. So the NBA playoffs, I got to give it credit because the NBA catches a lot of crap and like for the most part deservedly so, but I will say the playoffs the last like 4 years have been very entertaining, and I think anyone that is saying otherwise is like just kind of a Grinch to an extent and just looks at everything regarding the NBA negatively because the playoffs like objectively have been very entertaining the last handful of seasons between you know crazy runs and buzzer beaters and just like competitive back and forth games and like so you know NBA is doing its thing. NHL always does its thing, and it's pretty good this year as well. So hopefully the Flyers can finish off a sweep. We'll touch on that. Let's touch on the Flyers real quick before we get to the NFL and baseball. So game 4, Dan Vladar is a game time decision after taking that awkward hit to like the elbow, shoulder look
He
potential.
hyperextended his elbow when Brian Rust
Like
landed on
just
it.
skated in. Yeah, it was a weird play.
It looked
The
a
way
lot
he was
worse than
kind
it did.
of
Looked a lot
the way
worse.
he was kind of like this made me think his shoulder might have been
You saw
dislocated
he
or
was going like this with
something.
his hand.
Yeah, so that's what made me think elbow too when he was trying to like get his grip back a little bit. I listen, I don't know where you stand on this, but I am not against the idea of playing Airson tonight and putting it all on the players. Like, I would privately talk to the players after making the decision and saying, "Listen, if we lose tonight, it is going to be on you guys. It is not gonna be because who's in net. Like, you guys need to step up, play a clean game in front of him, stay out of the box, and find a way to get it done. But if we lose, it is on all of you and not gonna be on him." And I think that sort of message with such a tight, cohesive group that they all say that the Flyers have, like all the great, friendships and closeness that they all have, I do think that'll play, and I think they'll really play their guts out. Obviously, the Penguins, unless they're truly just gonna roll over and die, they're definitely gonna be, coming out swinging again tonight to try to get a game back going to Pittsburgh. But, like, worst case scenario, if you play Erson and you lose, that's 5 days between games for Vladar, with Wednesday being game 3 and Monday being game 5. So I'm hoping that, he's fine, and him being a game time decision, I think is kinda telling me that he's fine, but I just I'll be fine either way, but I'm really not against playing Erison just to make sure Vladar's alright. Where do you think where do you stand with that?
Well, if Vladar is healthy to play, and this was just kind of like I would say, I guess like par for the course. Like, hey, you're a goalie, you get banged up during the season. That's normal.
Mhm.
I would say play Dan Vladar if he's like close to 100% healthy. But if he's not, like you said, Michael, I don't think it's a bad idea up 3-0 to play Airson, just because
Yeah.
it's you want to. I think game 5, if necessary, is Monday. So giving him like 5 days, 4 or 5 days
It'd
off.
be 5, yeah.
5 days off. I think that's good. I agree, Michael. Like game 4, this is the first elimination game the Flyers are playing at home in front of a live crowd in 13 years,
Since,
18 years.
the last time the Flyers had an opportunity to close a series at home was yeah, it was the Penguins in 2012. Yeah, that was the last time because 2014 game 7 was in New York and they were down 3 games to 2 against the Rangers. 2016 they never had 3 wins, against the Capitals. In 2018 they didn't have 3 wins against Pittsburgh to close it out. So, yeah, the last time the Flyers were looking to finish a series was game 6 at home against the Penguins back in 2012. So, yeah, it has been 14 years since the Flyers have had an opportunity to close a series at home ice in front of fans, and that's quite a long time. So hopefully they come to show up. Like the Penguins, I think they're going to want to try to get out in front again. I think we're going to see potentially some suspect officiating at times again, trying to give the Penguins some extra power plays. That's nothing that's been that new as of late, but hopefully they just
I
play a
don't think
clean
that's
game,
going to be
stay
the
out of the
case
box.
today. I think it's going to. I'm going to tell you why. I mean, the Penguins are down 3-0.
Mhm.
And I think if I mean really extending this is really does anyone really care about extending this series out potentially for a game 5 on Monday?
I think the
Like
league is ratings wise. I mean, the Flyers Penguins are generating like 2 million plus viewership on national TV, let alone the local
I don't think
broadcast.
many Penguins fans are gonna be wanting to watch today's game. To be entirely, I'm gonna be blunt. Uh,
Well, well, listen, we'll see, man.
like
They love Flyers.
If the Flyers were down 3-0, would you? Let me ask you this: if the
I mean,
Flyers
would
were
I
down,
watch the game? Yeah.
I mean, you would watch the game obviously because you're a sicko. But
Well,
I'm saying like the casual to average fan, most
They're
likely not.
they wouldn't be as tuned in, that's for sure. They wouldn't be as
Correct.
locked in.
Right. The chance of bringing the Penguins back in this series ended in Game 3. Now,
Well, listen, 2012, man, like the same sort of thing happened, and the Flyers lost games 4 and 5, and they took it to 6. And it's like once you get to that point, it starts getting a little sweaty. You're still like confident as the team
right,
up
right. But
3-2.
what I'm
But
saying is, are the Penguins going to get handed 4 power plays in the first 10 minutes of the game today? Unless the Flyers are playing extremely undisciplined and stupid, no. I would say no. I
yeah, they
now
have to stay out of the box,
now
especially if Ladar's not going to play.
now Airson has had a very interesting career with the Flyers. 2 years ago, he played very well as a backup to Carter Hart. Then the Carter Hart / Team Canada scandal really, really got um, pushed in the national spotlight. Carter Hart got cut by the released by the Flyers. Ersson became the starter, and then he kind of struggled. Last year, Ersson, I'll just be just honest, he was not very good last year. He had a very poor season
Yeah,
last
and he
year.
and he had a pretty poor start to this season too. But along with everything else with the Flyers, after the Olympic break, he's been really, really good.
Well,
Playing
he
as a
played very well against the Stars in that.
he's just been good. Like every time he's played since post Olympic break has been like a pretty damn good gutsy performance
So
from
I
him.
would say this: if Dan Vladar is like 80%, like in terms of his health, ready to go, then you should play Airson. If he's like 95 or higher, he's just like, my elbow just is like a little bit sore. I could definitely play.
Hmm.
Then you kind of want to keep with Vladar because you want to ride the hot goalie, you know,
Yeah,
to a
no,
certain
I
extent.
listen. I get it. I don't think you should like definitely not play him. But it's like if it's truly a game time decision and you're testing his like grip pre-game, it's like all right, maybe just take it easy. You can back up today, and
Yeah, I
if
mean,
we
I
need
would
you, we
have
need
it
you.
like just tell both of them, like, listen, both of you guys are going to be need to be ready to play today. That's all.
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
me ask you this though. Now we're getting back at like
Honestly, they might already know, and just like in the normal hockey way, are just keeping it quiet, like how everything is. So
well, let me ask you this because we're talking about the goalies, which obviously Vladar right now. If we were to hand out like an MVP of this series, I think it should be Dan Vladar,
yeah, sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
Sure, why not, right? So far, let me ask you this: Game 4, like this is potentially the last game we're going to see of like Pittsburgh's like you know
Core,
like
the
we'll say
core,
it's
the
like
core for 20 years, like
we'll call it like the last dance. This is like
the
the last
dynasty core.
dance
Yeah, yeah,
of Letang, Malkin, and Crosby potentially.
right.
Because of the way Pittsburgh was kind of acting, like you saw Rust, like the big hullabaloo with from the game of Game 3, besides the Flyers like beatdown of Pittsburgh, was you saw the clip of Konechny. I hate how they did this. They just showed half of the clip between him and Rust, where Konechny kicks Rust with his skate.
Yeah, he tries to swipe his legs. Yeah,
But then it does fails to show you that Russ tried to stomp Konechny with his skate first.
yeah, yeah. I think the league. I know there's like a rule on like a kick is an automatic ejection, and I think that's like a fair rule. But it's the fact that no one saw anything until after the fact that I would just let it go and like let the teams know we saw it, and like you know we're not going to give out dueling suspensions for a game, so clean up your shit and don't let this happen. And I think that's valid. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous items in hockey that could cause some like serious harm, and for the most part, there's just that general level of respect in the game of hockey for as like nasty as it can get, that like you're not trying to actually kill the other person. So you know, uh, very interesting situation there. But I mean, again, it's a chippy series. It's been a chippy series. I expect chippiness to continue again tonight. And just, hopefully the Flyers can get out of there unscathed and move on. I mean, the Senators really aren't doing us any favors. That game four is also going to be tonight or today. Um, I think it'll definitely be done by the time the Flyers puck drop. So we'll know if the Hurricanes have swept and advanced, or if there will be a game five in that series. Obviously, just hoping for anything from Ottawa for them to finish a game out and steal one and extend the series a little bit, and give the Flyers as much time off as possible. But it ultimately feels like we could be heading down a path of a couple of sweeps to set up a Flyers Hurricanes playoff matchup, which for the most part, that'd be a tough one. That'd be a tough one for the orange and black, that's for sure. But we'll see how game four goes tonight. Hopefully we can take care of business, get a sweep, and enjoy something in Philadelphia sports. So do you want to talk some draft?
Yeah. So we kind of just talked about the first five picks when we were doing
Ish.
the draft show on Thursday.
Yep.
So I think now would be a good time to, I guess, talk about the first, we'll say like early winners and losers. I don't really think you can say someone's like losers if based off of like sixth or seventh round picks is at that point that they're like scratch off lottery tickets in terms of like players like,
In terms of hit
oh,
rate, yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of
So
hit rate and like, are we going to be like, oh my god, why did so and so team take this kicker in the seventh round? Like, dude, like no one
sure,
really, like no one
yeah,
really cares, you know.
yeah,
So, all right, do you want to just start with the Eagles? We could start with the Eagles. What we thought about the Eagles draft so far.
yeah. So the Eagles have had a busy couple days, as they usually do in the NFL draft. First thing, they traded up with the Dallas Cowboys. Not anything new there. They moved up three spots, jumping right in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and drafted USC wide receiver Makai Lemon. Now, Makai Lemon, this draft pick, it may just officially seal the fate of one AJ Brown. Which tough, man. Really, like I am still like just that sucks. It really does. I get it. I very much get it. It just I'm not gonna handle it well. I hate the way the fan base is talking about him. Like like anything, really. I think it's a lot of it is super disgusting. I think that like the city has a problem with and is like way too comfortable with trashing athletes kind of in general, but especially the ones that were like good. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, he was really good, had a down year, has been voicing his frustration for years, and it's like we're ready to kick him to the curb as again, as if he's not like one of the most important players as to why this team became good again and went from like a fine team to a great team. Like pretty like one to one. They acquired AJ Brown, the offense took off in a whole new world. And, pretty obvious stuff there.
Well, I
Obviously it didn't work out fully, you know, to its extent. And people are upset about that. And I think that's valid, but the people that are acting like he's some bum or whatever are just morons, truly. And like it's fans like that that make me think like they don't like these part of my same fan base just do not deserve teams to be good. If like this is how we sort of treat things, like it's the same people that trash on To for not wanting, for wanting more money when it's like, yeah, man, he's the reason you got to the Super Bowl finally. So maybe you should award him. And AJ Brown is the reason this offense, like this team got out of purgatory for 4 years. So why don't why don't we like appreciate a little bit more? Anyways, he's probably
no, I think
gone.
no. I think we could talk. I kind of want to talk about that for a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
Um, I think a lot of people. I would say that this AJ Brown discourse. This reminds me a lot of when there were the leaks around Carson when he was here as a starting quarterback around 2019, and a lot of people thought it was just Alshon Jeffrey leaking information to Josina Anderson, and
Right, and, like, there was actually substance there.
people were running to defend Carson and questioning why Alshon was still here. F. Alshon. Well, when Alshon Jeffrey played a vital role in them winning a Super Bowl, the franchise's first Super Bowl.
Right.
AJ Brown is going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And a big chunk of that Hall of Fame career he's having is going to be him wearing an Eagles jersey, unless he goes to
Yeah.
whoever the next team is, the New England Patriots or the Los
Whoever,
Angeles Chargers, whoever it is. Realistically, he has like 1 or 2 year prime years left for him to really rack up numbers, and chances are the Eagles are going to be the only team he's going to win a Super Bowl with, right?
Sure,
Right.
sure.
People did this all the time. People said this about Eric Lindros. They say this phrase like Scott Rowland, et cetera. People say there's a phrase that says "time heals all wounds." People are going to get over AJ Brown not being an Eagle, right? This isn't like, and I think the big issue is the Rossini reporting really screwed this up, where
Yeah.
and now with the whole idea of the tampering,
It's also
potential
just like,
tampering involved
yeah,
in it. A lot of people are pissed off. A lot of people are upset. But I do agree with you. There's like some of the Twitter people. I'm not going to name anybody on this podcast specifically, but Michael, there's a lot. Like you look at there's a term for the people that are like crying about AJ Brown, who are like being weird. There's a term. It's called chronically online.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like I'm reading some of these like wild theories, and I'm like, dude, this is not HBO's Euphoria. This is the NFL. These are grown men. This is the real world. This isn't a TV show. AJ Brown, the Eagles want to get rid of. If the Eagles let the Eagles want to get rid of AJ Brown, it's because of his contract. They need to keep other players, and he probably wants a fresh start somewhere else.
And it's like,
That is not uncommon in the National
no,
Football.
no, it's not. And it's like there's a sense of like there's a sense of entitlement with the fans here where it's like, how could you not want to be an Eagle? And it's like, I get it. I really get it. This does seem like a great place to play all the time. But it's like, my God, man, some people need to take off the midnight green colored glasses at times. And it's like, it's just gonna be all season of, like, Makai Lemon doing something, and it'll be like, "Oh, 11 woulda dropped that one," or, "Notice how Smitty's not pouting on the sidelines." Like, it's gonna be stuff like that all season long, and it's gonna just be it's just annoying. It just really is annoying. Um,
Yeah, you know what? I said this about with age people trashed AJ Brown. I said he's been a 1,000 yard receiver every year he's been with the Eagles, and I said, okay, you want to get rid of him so bad. Who do you want to replace him with?
yeah, and they might
How
have
are you
found a
going to
guy.
replace his production? And I think let's get back to Makai Lemon.
Yeah,
Listen, I think Makai Lemon. I think it was a good pick. I think he probably should have gone. You look at the receivers taken in the top 10, Jordan Tyson and Carnell
Arnold
Tate.
Tate.
Makai Lemon probably should have gone top 10. You know,
Yeah, I'm
Tyson's
shocked he
draft
was
stock,
there.
Jordan Tyson's draft stock. He from the beginning of the process, he went from being a second round pick, Michael. He had a second round grade initially, and then we did all the workouts. We did the combine, and then he skyrocketed into the top 10. He reminded me a lot, like Jordan Tyson reminded me a lot of Tet McMillan, and when people looked at Tet McMillan, they thought, oh, he reminded them of Drake London. So we're sensing a pattern here of people want these like big athletic wide receivers with these huge wingspans. Because if you have a mid quarterback, that guy can make your quarterback look much better than he actually is,
Sure, sure.
right? My Kyle Lemon's like 5'11", slot can play a lot in the slot. Um, Unfortunately, it's like Who would you rather have? The 6'4" athletic freak receiver who catches anything thrown his way, or a guy that's smaller that's gonna not it's gonna be a little harder for them to catch overthrows.
Yeah, no, it's two different. They're all the receiver prospects are very different. And I think that Makai Lemon is very much like a modern receiver, the way like, you can block, you're not the biggest body, but you can make a lot of stuff happen after the catch. Reminds me like the comp that he gets all the time is Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's like the biggest comp. That's who he comps himself to, saying a guy that he likes to watch
Oh,
his
that's
game a lot and
easy.
model
Both
his
are
game off
USC
of.
receivers, same build.
Well, I mean, they're just like this. The play style is very similar. Like you can win over the middle, you can win in tight coverage, you can win in tight spaces, and you have great hands and you have great ability after the catch, great yak ability. And like, what do you rarely ever see from Amon-Ra St. Brown? A deep ball. You never see an Amon-Ra deep ball like over the top. And that's probably, Lemon's weakest point as a wideout is just like a full on go ball beating someone down the field one-on-one coverage. And you look at some of what the Eagles film guys are saying, they're all saying a very similar thing. And I agree that if this pick shows anything, prospect aside, which obviously we're pretty high on Makai Lemon. I was definitely high on him in the process. Really, again, just didn't think he would be there. I don't think anybody thought he'd be there for when they got him. And this just kind of keeps furthering our assumption and I guess hope that the offense is going to look completely different this year. That there is going to be, it's going to be like full on Mannion. Like Sirianni is truly going to be about as hands off with the offense as possible. It's not going to be like Kellen Moore, where it was still the Sirianni offense and Kellen Moore had to choose his spots on where to put in little wrinkles. I think it's going to be brand new. I think it's going to look like, you know, the Green Bay offense, the San Francisco offense, the Rams offense to an extent. Like it just those are the sort of this is a player that is like a perfect mold for that style of offense. They said he was like bred for it. Like over the middle, good blocker, good hands, good in, wiggle ability to get open in space and to create stuff after the catch. And it's like those are all the qualities that guys that like, Puka Nacua had, that guys like Debo Samuel had over the years and guys like that. And I think that Makai Lemon can fit that bill and be, useful. And it's really like all this to keep saying and keep hammering away that this is just such a massive year for Jalen, and Hurts needs to be able to show that he can handle it. Not to say that I don't believe in him, not to say that either of us don't believe in him, but it's just going to be a completely different offensive scheme. And, we're going to know right away if he's under center play action, where he's supposed to play action, top of his drop, let it rip on a dig route. If he's a little hesitant, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if he can handle this sort of style of offense, or if he's going to be confident in his ability and letting it rip and trusting the throws and taking what comes with it. I think that's the best possible option that you can have here. So we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a brand new offense, man. I really do, and I think that Makai Lemon pick kind of solidifies it, because if you try to
Yeah.
run the offense you've been running the last few years with Makai Lemon, I do think that it is going to be
Well, let's just
difficult.
let's just kind of bring up like the Eagles, this like odyssey they've gone through the last several years at
Hmm.
finding a number three receiver. This has been going on since Nelson left.
Hmm.
And I know Nelson, I'm referring to Aguilar. I think he catches a little too much flack. I mean, he's a big reason why they won a Super Bowl. So you should kind of give him the respect based off that
I love
alone.
Nelson.
Some respect. Since Nelson, they've had Quez, they've had Jahan, and now Julio Jones, like the corpse of Julio
Yeah, I
Jones,
mean, like they've had Zacchaeus, they've had Pascal, they've had
right?
they've shuffled through guys. Yeah.
Let's just like Makai Lemon's gonna play different spots in different formations too. This isn't like Madden where you're locked into that slot spot in every single formation that you're calling,
Right.
But the big thing is the Eagles haven't been great at working over the middle. Probably one because of the Sirianni scheme, which is now dead. They're running this Mannion. They're going to run the Mannion scheme, which is going to call for more plays over the middle. Well, you need to bring in guys that could catch passes over the middle too. And as much as we love Smitty, you kind of don't want Devontae Smith running over the middle consistently to
Right.
risk him getting hurt, right? Which I
Yeah.
think this is a great segue into the Eagles' second round pick, Eli Stowers.
It's Stowers. I thought it was
Eli
Stowers.
Stowers, excuse me, Eli Stowers, tight end from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset initially because it was not Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety from Toledo. Uh, Real quick about the whole Eagles not taking a safety, though. I want to talk about that, get that out of the way before we go into Stowers. If the Eagles would have taken Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the first or second round, the Eagles would have spent four of their top, like the first 2 round picks that they would have had on defensive back since 2024. That's like almost unheard of for
Hmm.
you to spend that many picks in one like area of your team.
Yeah.
So, and I hate to say this, they're not giving up on Andrew Makuba. They're not
No, I
bailing.
mean, yeah, I don't hate to say that. I do think they'll still need a safety. Like, I don't think you should
No, yeah,
totally
I think
plan
the
on.
safety. I think they want a veteran safety
Yeah,
that's
I don't
better
think you should
than
plan on
Epps.
Epps. Yeah, I don't think you should plan on Epps and Makuba to be your starting safety
I
duo.
think the
But
next, yeah, because the Eagles technically only have 3 safeties. They
but
have
again, more about Eli Stowers. Let's
right. Yes,
stay
yes.
grounded here. He's an athletic freak. Combine MVP type of guy this year. Converted quarterback that was, I think, first team All American. Like he was a machine tight end for a team in Vanderbilt that you know shocked some people on how good they were this year. And looking at some of the analysis of it, the guy that runs seam routes really well, which could definitely be an ability that you know we talk about Goddard a lot in terms of what he's kind of gotten worse at as his career has gone on, and run blocking has kind of taken a bit of a hit, and maybe that was like back of mind concerted effort to kind of stay healthy, to take it easy on the blocking, which like it kind of blows, but like if that's what it was, that's what it was. And I think to have another receiving tight end that you feel a lot more comfortable with, because clearly they haven't felt comfortable with like Calcaterra as a receiver as much as maybe they should have. Um, this could be a guy that really can take some of the, I think, workload in like between the 20s away from Goddard in like a positive way, like giving him some ability to rest and give you high level reps every time instead of some ones that are lacking a little bit. So it'll be really interesting. They drafted two receivers, two receiving weapons in the first 2 rounds of this draft, and I'll be intrigued to see how that plays. You know, it's uncharacteristic for what we're used to with the Eagles at this point. Not taking a lineman in the first 2 rounds. Obviously, they did in the third round, and they made a trade. We'll talk about, but really, really interesting stuff. I'm
Do
seemingly
you
encouraged by Eli Stowers.
do you know how tight like Brian Baldinger is with like the Eagles organization, like guys in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Baldinger said before this draft there was only 2 offensive linemen available that he would say should have a first round grade,
yeah. No, it was definitely a weak offensive line class.
right?
There was no top full fledged guy.
Hmm.
I'll be right back. I will be right back. You keep talking about Stowers. The Talk about the third round pick too.
Okay. So yeah, Eli Stowers, when watching his tape, his receiving ability, he reminds me a lot of Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. Very good down the seam. Um, much like McBride, he's extremely athletic. He's definitely a high like a volume tight end. Like he's a guy that could rack up 7, 8, 9 catches in a game. Um, he's a big reason why people talked about Diego Pavia as a quarterback because he was like his go-to guy when he was at Vanderbilt this past year. Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting pick. The big concern with Eli Stowers is his blocking or lack thereof. He wasn't asked to block a whole lot when he was at Vanderbilt because he was running so many passes. But his run blocking is where he struggled. And funny enough, Trey McBride was not a very good run blocker when he was at Colorado State. Kind of going back to the comparisons to Trey McBride, but the thing about being a tight end and blocking in the NFL is one, you're going to have to want to block, and two, depending on your athleticism, like you could be coached to like block. Obviously people are like triggered. Were triggered last night because we saw with Grant Calcaterra how he's just not. He's been a horrible blocker for the Eagles for the last several years. I wouldn't think that with Stowers. The thing though with Eli Stowers is he's kind of a developmental tight end, and by that I mean he's not like a Tyler Warren or a Colston Loveland where he's going to come in and like midway through the season like supplant Dallas Goedert and be the number one tight end. This is actually very much like when the Eagles took Zach Ertz in 2013, and it took him like a year or two before he really kind of cemented himself as tight end one on the Eagles. I do want to bring up the Eagles' third round pick. That would be Miami offensive tackle Markel Bell. He was the starting left tackle for the ACC champion Miami Hurricanes. He was really stood out in the national championship against Indiana. He was their left. He was the 6'9", almost 6'10" tackle who. If you saw he has a viral clip where he takes DeAnthony Pons and just literally flatlines him. It's an interesting pick because much like Stowers, he's not going to start day. I would be shocked if he starts day one. He was someone that no one talked about playing at guard to eventually move at tackle. From what the Eagles have said, he's been training a lot at right tackle, but he still can also play left tackle, so he's going to be a swing tackle potentially for the Eagles. I know, kind of like Michael brought up when the Eagles were at the pick 64. There was guards that were available, most notably like Jennings Dunker, the viral Iowa offensive lineman with the red mullet, and the Oregon guard. I'm pulling up his name. He was taken last night by, I believe, he was taken last night by the Jaguars. Pregnon, yeah, Emmanuel Pregnon. I thought that could have been the pick because either one of those guys, I think, could have started for the Eagles day one, and I think they're both guys that would have been good fits on the Eagles, Pregnon and Dunker. But instead, they went with the Lane replacement, and if you look at the Eagles' first three picks, it really it kind of goes in line, which was reported, where the Eagles weren't necessarily looking to draft players with the intent of having them to come in and play or start right away. in other words, you look at when the Eagles drafted Quinion and Cooper DeJean. Um, we kind of thought Quinion was going to beat out James Bradbury, especially because Bradbury was so bad in 2023 due to him just losing his step and battling injuries throughout the whole season. And with Coop, like as soon as Avante Maddox was just almost unplayable, you knew he was going to have to come in and play and see what he could do. And this draft is definitely not the case. It's definitely not in the same vein here. This is definitely the Eagles are most certainly trying to. You okay?
Yeah, when nature calls sometimes.
Oof. Gotta lay off that iced coffee, man. I'll go right through you.
The coffee went right through
So
me there.
anyway, so
So
since you've been gone, so
yeah,
basically, I kind of said stuff that you definitely would react to. So
sure.
so when you were gone, so I compared Eli Stowers' receiving ability a lot to Trey McBride. They're
That's
both
interesting.
both
I
similar builds, both kind of similar receiving abilities, like high volume tight ends. I brought up that this past year he was definitely Diego Pavia's like go to guy. And when you look at these Manziel quarterbacks, we'll say, you know, realistically, like everyone like, oh my god, look at these great plays. It's like, well, yeah, if you throw like a 10-yard out route to a tight end, he catches it and then runs past 5 defenders for like a 50-yard touchdown. Realistically, it's oh my god, what a great play by the tight end, not the oh my god, looked at the like colorful, goofy quarterback who's just making going like this, you
Yeah, no,
know.
I hear you. I like Stowers. I saw some comps to Fannin, which I could see. And we'll see. Did you talk about the offensive lineman?
Yes.
Yeah,
So Markel Bell. So what I thought was interesting when they took him was when the Eagles were picking at 64, I thought they were going to potentially trade down to pick up some of the picks that they traded up with to take Lemon, probably get a fourth back. They didn't. They stayed put at 64 and they took Markel Bell. I thought at that spot they were going to take. I was thinking of Kilgore, the safety from South Carolina. I was thinking who's still available, by the way.
yeah,
He is still you know
out there.
out there. I was thinking Pregnon, the guard from Oregon, who, as you know, Michael, the Eagles' guard situation is not extremely ideal at the moment. And then I was thinking of Jennings Dunker and the reason why I said all three of those names is because the Eagles brought all three of those guys in for top 30 visits, reportedly. So
Yeah,
they went with Bell, who they also brought in for a top 30 visit. So obviously, Bell was higher up on their draft boards than the three guys that I just mentioned, and they went with
yeah.
the
They
lane.
drafted a
They went with
massive
the
human
lane
being.
replacement.
Yeah, well, we'll see, man. He's 6'9". It's almost. I worry that's almost too big. You know what I mean? We'll see how it plays. 6'9" is just
So
like otherworldly large.
so his so he's an interesting player, Markel Bell. Uh, for his size, the one of my buddies texted me and he said, "Oh my god, he's the offensive tackle version of Jordan Davis."
Yeah, that's just you got to be able to move out there, and as long as he can move, he might be all right. But yeah, I hear you.
So he's obviously I hate this. This is where I hate to say this. If Stout was still the offensive line coach, we would all be freaking out right now thinking, oh my God, this guy's going to go to Stoutland University and he's going to make this guy into like we're gonna have two Jordan Mailatas on our offensive line.
Right, right. I do think that that has also crossed my I think it's crossed a lot of people's mind, and that's valid. But it'll be interesting. We'll see how this new regime handles some offensive linemen. But the last part to wrap up the Eagles is they made a trade, which along with like the AJ Brown stuff is probably the worst kept was probably the worst kept secret in the league. It's been leaked out there for weeks at this point and clearly was like done for some time before it got announced because the guy was at the facility and was also at the Sixers game last night. Uh, Jonathan Grenard. The Eagles acquire Jonathan Grenard for a third round pick this year and a third round pick next year. And they also got back a seventh with Grenard. Now, this is a guy that I think really, really helps. And not only because he's like a really nice player and a great pass rusher, but it just makes everyone else's job in the edge department very, very easy. Or not very easy, but like it simplifies their roles a little bit. Not it can you can ask them to be a little more playing to what they're capable of doing instead of ask them to do a ton. So Jonathan Grenard, drafted originally by the Texans, a part of the was a part of the no. He signed a 4-year, $76 million deal with the Houston Texans a few years ago, and then the Texans acquired. Excuse me. Then the Vikings they did a like pass rusher swap situation. So the Vikings signed a 4-year, $76 million deal with Grenard, and the Texans acquired Danielle Hunter. So like a little one for one swap with like some you know B tier to A tier pass rushers. And Grenard in his last year in Houston and his first year in Minnesota was great. He had 12 sacks and 12 and a half sacks in those 2 seasons. Last year, a little banged up, had a down season, only 3 sacks, but still, good pressure rates and all those sort of underlying numbers that make you believe a little bit. But he's a guy that when you look at like Jalen Phillips, for example, and Jalen Phillips got a humongous bag from the Carolina Panthers, and the Eagles not only make the trade but sign Grenard to a 4-year, $98 million, call it $100 million extension. That's a big discount in comparison for a guy that might just help out a little bit more for what the Eagles need. Now, Jalen Phillips was obviously very impactful for the Eagles last season after the trade deadline, but he still didn't get like a ton of sacks. And that's always kind of been his thing where he just doesn't finish plays. He doesn't get the big sack. He just doesn't do that. And Grenard a little bit differently where he is able to get home a little bit more and able to get some more sacks, but
Yeah, it's
maybe isn't
like
as good in the run game as Phillips is. And I think you'll take that trade-off for what this team kind of needs. You look at the edge rushers that they have, like Nolan Smith. He's a great run defending edge rusher that can sometimes struggle in pass rush. Brandon Graham when he's out there is in that similar mold. Like it makes the lives of like Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith and every other person on that defensive line. It just makes their roles a little bit easier when you have a guy that's kind of like a pass rushing specialist sort of vibe, the way that like Hassan Reddick was to an extent. But obviously Grenard's got a little bit of a bigger body to him that can play a little bit better in the run game than what Hassan Reddick was able to do.
yeah, Jonathan Grenard. He kind of had a down year last year for terms of the sack numbers, but the pressure rates were still really, really high. And
Hmm.
now that he's gotten paid, I don't think he's going to be uh, disgruntled about not getting sacks based off what he's being asked to do by the D coordinator. I mean, he's going from the chaos defense. He went from he's going from the chaos defense to the Fangio defense. They needed him. They needed him bad. They needed a veteran edge that can get
Get after the
consistent
passer.
pressures. And Michael, you and I both really like Nolan Smith. His only issue to date in the NFL is his health, and I think he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that, but like he's also going to be due a contract extension, in a couple years.
He's a guy that I could see maybe get traded. Nolan
I
Smith.
was thinking the same thing because they have to exercise the 5th year option on him at some point, and
Hmm.
the other like poorly kept secret is the Eagles want to add a veteran safety. They clearly did not want to draft another one after taking
Hmm.
Makuba. They were not
And you
in.
don't, and you don't want a safety duo that's like too, Makuba's not a rookie, but it's like almost is like with the injury and how much time that he missed last year that it's like, you got a year one safety and like a year one and a half safety as your two
Yeah,
starters,
like in 2024, people that were like F Slay, I hate Slay,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of like what AJ Brown was getting, kind of this same hate, this like anti-Eagle, this
It's
like
just weird
anti-player,
behavior.
weird slander. Um, you need a veteran there. You need and like listen, I like Marcus Epps. I think Marcus Epps is a good swing safety, like good number 3
I mean,
safety.
last year was great for us. Like truly stabilized the back end once he came in.
Right. I just don't know if he's going to hold up for 17 games. Because that was he was banged up with the
It's
Raiders.
just asking for him to replicate what he was able to do from like weeks, what was it, like 10 on or whatever after
Yeah,
they benched
he's basically like Troy Polamalu compared to like Sidney
Sidney
Brown.
Brown. Yeah, I mean, thank God that guy's off the
But
team.
I don't know, like I do know that the from what I've been reading and like reading the tea leaves is that after this draft, there's going to be players that are going to get traded. Besides potentially AJ Brown, um, because of the whole June 1st like advantage of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So I'll just throw it out. I mean, I'll just throw it out there. Let's say the Eagles get a first and a third for AJ from the Patriots. We'll just say
Hmm.
the Eagles could take that 3rd round pick and then throw it at the Cardinals for Buda Baker, and then the Eagles essentially would get for AJ Brown a 1st round pick and Buda Baker.
Maybe, yeah.
Would that make you feel better?
Nothing's really gonna heal the wound at the moment. Like it's just, I'm gonna be dramatic about it. I'm gonna be annoying about it. It's just simply, you're just gonna have to deal. But no, yeah, it would make. Listen, like already they're planning ahead without him. It seems like, and like Makai Lemon, that's a great step in the direction. I think I want this offense to go. Not that like, oh, AJ Brown can't do that. Obviously he can, but Makai Lemon is just like a confirmation that it's like, okay, yeah, we are heading this direction. And Jonathan Grenard, that's another move I don't think they make with the plans of keeping AJ Brown on the roster, like contractually. Like even though they're still going to take a pretty hefty cap hit this year from him, I do think that's the sort of move you make. And listen, if they do somehow spin a safety at some point, that would also be nice. So we'll see. We'll see how they keep finishing out this draft and what they end up doing. Is there any other NFL draft stuff you wanted to talk about before we talk about the Phillies?
Yeah, I do think we should just not talk about just the Eagles. I kind of want to talk about some
Yeah,
like
what do you got?
quick winners and losers. I'm going to go over my winners of the draft.
Mhm.
I think the Cleveland Browns are a winner.
Couple
I
of
like their draft.
receivers, yeah.
I like their draft a lot. I was talking with my buddies about it, and I was like, I think the Browns should draft 2 receivers early on, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, the receiver room is terrible. Like Jerry Judy is not. He had Jerry Judy had an insanity run 2 years ago, and he's just an average. Like as Steve Smith said, he's a jag, just a guy."
Yeah, yeah. Jerry
They,
Judy, like he's nothing spectacular. They haven't had like a really great receiver, you can say, since like Jarvis Landry, maybe a year of Odell for a little bit there, but that was a disaster the whole time. It's like really like since what, Josh Gordon? Like it's just not been anything spectacular in Cleveland in the receiver department for a while. And between, KC Concepcion and Denzel Boston, like feels like that revamps the core a little bit and definitely helps you out whether you want Shador as the long-term answer or not. Um, I think it'll help him out this year regardless, and you know, might still not be enough to get you out of the basement if you're in a if you you know you're in a position to want to draft a quarterback next year. So I think it makes a lot of sense where it's like, okay, say they stink and like they're in an opportunity to get Arch or something like that, and it's like, okay, well, we have two promising young receivers that are already here for him that when he gets here, we can really,
and they
start
drafted
cooking with
Spencer
oil.
Fano with their first with the ninth with their
Right, right. So I think they also had a pretty great first couple days. I agree with you.
I think the New York Giants have had a great draft so
I think
far.
the NFC East has had a pretty good draft, all things considered. I think
Well, maybe not everybody.
who are you not high on? I honestly, I'm not sure. I
So
think they all did great, to be honest with you. I mean, the Giants I thought
so
did great. I think Arvell Reese and Mayaga I thought were two positions of pretty big need that I thought they took two pretty good players with it. You know,
so
I thought Caleb Downs is a.
I like Sonny Styles, but when I look at the issues that the Washington Commanders have,
I mean,
off ball.
linebacker doesn't jump out to you with
I
Bobby
mean,
Wagner out there. Like I think honestly, I think off ball linebacker is almost at the top of my list for me in terms of a need for them. Like he
well,
screams off the
if you
page.
look at Washington's needs, the entire offensive line. You saw what happened to Jaden Daniels, where he just got the tar beaten out of him last year because their O line is just bad. Um, obviously this Jeremiah Love did not fall to them because the Cardinals took him third overall. And they just don't have picks, Michael. Like, you look at how bad, like, you look at the Commanders and you're like, with their rebuild and how they basically kind of screwed it up because they did so well the first year and they just blew all their picks to try to win now. Like, I think Sonny Styles is going to be a great player, but it's like, I'm not going to be like, oh, wow, like
I mean, I
Antonio
just think
Williams.
it'll make Frankie Louvu, I think, look better, and like between like Owe, Chason, Styles, and Louvu, like I think you can definitely get a lot worse in the linebacker department. And I think Styles is a guy that kind of solidifies it. I listen, I hear you. I hear there's the reservations there, but I do think it was still. I think still
I,
Styles is a pretty nice prospect.
I thought it was surprising that when the Chiefs jumped up and took Mansour Delane, I think they thought that
They must have heard that the Commanders were drafting a corner there,
which I think the Commanders desperately need a corner.
which I mean they drafted in the third round, right? They
No,
took a.
they
Oh,
took
sorry, they took a wideout. That's
they
right,
took wide
Antonio Williams.
receiver from Clemson, Antonio Williams, who I think
Listen, they need
eh,
like you said, they need a lot of help in a lot of positions. So, um,
right. But the thing with the Giants though is this: I talk to a lot of people. Arvell Reese was probably the best prospect in this draft.
mhm.
He went fifth overall. If the Giants had the first overall pick in this draft, they probably still would have taken Arvell Reese.
Yeah.
So you think about them botching their tank, or they won too many games with Jackson Dart when he came in. We can talk about their tanking, screwing up your tank, whatever. They were extremely fortunate that the Cardinals and the Titans were stupid in not taking Arvell Reese, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand why the Jets took Bailey because he's the best true 4-3 end, which is what they really needed. Um, the thing with Arvell Reese is a lot of people, I saw Giants fans were complaining about it. And I don't know if I sent it to you, but I was like, wow, this is why nobody wants to play in New York. Their fans are just so incredibly stupid. Um, Michael, like Arvell Reese's like floor is like Derek Brooks,
Hmm.
like Ray
I mean, that's
Lewis,
it's a pretty good floor, man.
like, and his ceiling is like he's an edge rusher like a Micah Parsons or like a TJ Watt
Yeah, it seems
or
like they're gonna be playing him. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've heard both if they're gonna be playing him more off ball or as an edge rusher, but
apparently Harbaugh says he wants a guy to be the captain of their defense, and they think Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles would have filled that role.
yeah.
And then the Giants went with the 10th overall pick, and I am shocked he was there. Was
Hmm.
Francis Mauoja
Yeah.
from Miami, the right
Mayaga.
tackle,
Yeah.
who I thought was like a top 5 pick. Um, his comp is Darnell Wright. I think he's a lot better of a prospect than Darnell Wright it was. Um, Listen, they need to protect Jackson Dart. I know Jackson Dart doesn't do himself any favors with how he protects himself,
Hmm.
Michael, but dude, like when you look at the if you look at the Giants, they've Andrew Thomas has missed a lot of games, and I know they re-signed Illuminor, but I think Illuminor could probably slide in at guard. You know,
Yeah,
he's
no, I think
he's a
the
versatile
Giants
he's a versatile lineman. And then
I
if
think
you
the
look at
Giants made a couple nice, really nice picks.
right, and then they took Colton Hood at corner, Michael, who probably should have been a first round pick,
You can argue. You could definitely
right?
argue. Yeah.
And then Malachi Fields is like not a bad taking a flyer at wide receiver. I mean, I don't people were complaining they didn't take Caleb Downs. They already have Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin. They kind of don't really, I don't know. I don't know if you just bench Javon Holland, who's like a Pro Bowl caliber safety, for taking Caleb Downs because they didn't really need a safety. Um,
Yeah.
I think Dallas is weird. So whenever the Dallas Cowboys have a draft and they have a lot of picks, I feel like they hit a home run with like their first pick, and then their second pick they strike out. So Caleb Downs, Caleb Downs, one of the best safety prospects in a while, probably the best since Derwin James.
Yeah, he's up there, one of the best prospects in this whole draft, truly, on a lot of people's big boards and like the top five. Um, so it definitely feels like Dallas got a really good key cog to their defense. And like to say they completely missed on their second first round pick, I don't think is totally fair. But I don't know. Like I don't think Malachi
Malachi
Lawrence.
Lawrence was projected to go to mid late second round.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah. I
massive
mean,
reach in that spot. Um, the
but it
Cowboys,
gets to a point where it's like if they really loved him as a prospect, he's actually funny enough pro comped to Jonathan Grenard. That it's like if you want a guy that is if you like a guy that much, do you really feel like hoping that he's there till the second? If you're, they already traded down, so they're looking at that as probably a big win for them. Where it's like, I'll take the extra mid round draft selection to get a guy that I know is going to be there and still want anyways. You know what I mean?
right?
Like,
But you're forgetting. There's a lot of context about why they took him here at this spot. Was they helped the Eagles get Makai Lemon,
hmm
and dude, the Cowboys are not serious about re-signing George Pickens, and he's gonna apparently he's going to sign. Is he going to sign his franchise tender, like the franchise tag?
He is gonna play. I mean, they keep saying he's gonna play on it, so I'm assuming they're not just making that up. But it wouldn't be the wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when I look at them taking Malachi Lawrence with the reach, Michael, they reached for Mozzie Smith in the first round.
Mhm.
Like they're
Mhm.
known to like when they're picking in like the late first round, mid to late first round, they're with their player evals, they'll just reach for guys, you know?
Sure. Sure.
That's
No,
and that
and yeah, so that can definitely hurt you.
and this is kind of like just been their whole MO. Like it's like if they're not picking really high in the draft, it's like they don't know what they're doing, you know?
Mhm.
And look, friend of the show Mac likes Jay Sean Barham, the edge from Michigan. I actually liked him more than the guy they took with their their second first round pick, which isn't really good, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, in this draft, I would say other teams I think that were I would say that were like quote unquote winners.
Mhm.
Um, I think the Jets had a really good draft.
Really? Okay. I've seen a lot of polarizing opinions on the Jets draft.
I like David Bailey a lot. I think David Bailey is I think I he's not like him and this guy I'm going to say are like they're different, but I think they're going to potentially provide a similar impact. Um, the Jets are trying to replicate the the Lions rebuild. They have a Lions coach and their GM. I'm not sure if he's from the Lions. Jets GM. It's not obviously. It's Darren Mogi. He's their GM. He's from the Broncos. Okay, he's used to be with the Denver Broncos, the GM of the Jets. But they're definitely trying to replicate the Lions rebuild. Just if you look at some of their picks, they took David Bailey. We'll say he's like Aiden Hutchinson, right? Second overall edge rusher. This is going to be like the captain, the leader of our defense, right? At 16, they took Kenyon Sadiq. At first, I was like, they have Mason Taylor. Why the hell are you taking Kenyon Sadiq?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't love the Sadiq pick because I don't think I was enamored with the Sadiq prospect to draft him in like the first round. You know what I mean? I wasn't super sold. But he is a good receiving prospect. It'll be interesting to see how he pans out in the
So
pro level.
I'm thinking they're comparing him to the tight end who's the Detroit Lions tight end, we'll say.
Sam Laporta.
Sam Laporta. I think that's like their thought process there. Then they moved back in the first round to take Indiana wide receiver Omar Cooper.
Hmm.
We'll say that's like the Amon Ra, right? Like he's a slot guy.
Yeah,
He's
Omar Cooper. Well, yeah. I'm seeing he's getting some comps to like Rasheed Rice. Sadiq's getting some comps to Vernon Davis. Wow.
and then in the second round they took
Pons.
Pons, who he's going to be a great slot corner. The,
He might be able to hang outside. Like, yeah, if you have a good enough scheme or whatever, I'm seeing some comps to Chris Harris. I'm seeing people saying uh, Aaron Glenn drafted himself, like, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he lands. But it definitely a 5'8" corner is pretty small. So we'll see. Any other draft things you want to hit before we talk Phillies?
can we just bury the San Francisco 49ers?
Go for it.
So the Niners are they should get an F for their draft, in my opinion. Oh, we'll say a D. We'll say a D.
Hmm.
Uh, with the 33rd pick, they took Dejon Stribling, wide receiver Ole Miss, who a lot of people think was going to go for in like the late third, early fourth round. Like the Eagles brought him in with the visit, and people thought like, oh, he was going to be like the fallback option if they went like edge, offensive line, and like safety. We'll say in the draft, he would have been like the guy they took with the Milton Williams comp pick, right?
hmm
They took him over like Denzel Boston.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This could
Then
be one of those things you look in hindsight and you see like oh man. I feel like we've seen it so much and I'm drawing a blank now, but it's like those early second round picks where you draft a receiver. It might have been like the 2019 NFL draft, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, where obviously that was a pretty loaded wideout class, and you look in the second round and mm, I guess they kind of nailed it to an extent, but it's like, you know, Mecole Hardman, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Paris Campbell, and Andy Isabella all got drafted over DK Metcalf. And it's like, okay, maybe don't overthink it that much. You know what I mean? Like all
yeah,
those guys. So yeah, the Niners definitely not grading well currently in the early stage of the draft. But let's pivot. Let's pivot here. We can wrap up some draft talk next show. The Philadelphia Phillies, John, are spiraling. They are in the midst of a 10-game losing streak, and those are not easy to bounce back from in baseball. For as long as a season as baseball is, and as big of a grind as it is very difficult to dig yourself out of a hole this this deep this early. You hear it all the time. You can't win a division. You can't make the playoffs in April or May, but you can certainly lose a division and you can certainly miss the playoffs this early. And the Phillies are on like a fast track to do that at the moment. They currently sit um, in last place in the National League East. They currently sit 10 and a half games out of first place. They currently sit 10 games under 500. Now, that's pretty atrocious, John. That is a pretty brutal place to be. And ultimately, they're just playing really bad baseball. Like, nothing is going their way. There's some parts that are definitely unlucky, but ultimately, they're like bottom five in every uh, non-analytic stat, like every counting stat. They're bottom five in pretty much across the board. And that's a really hard place to be. That's really frustrating. Zach Wheeler's back tonight, which is cool, but like we're at a point where they just need to win a game. They just need to win some games here. Like we the barometer for making the playoffs in the uh expanded playoff era, like the new wild card era where there are six playoff teams in each league. There are three wild cards in each league. The roughly average amount of wins that you need to have to be that sixth playoff team, that third wild card, is about 86 wins. That's kind of what it's been. Obviously, you get a team like the Diamondbacks. They only won 84 games and went to the World Series. The Phillies only won 86 games when they went to the World Series, maybe 85. I might be remembering incorrectly, but it's like it's not impossible like to make it at that level and go on a run, obviously, but you want to be around 86 wins to feel like you have a fair shot to get it. And the way that teams around the league are looking, it looks like it's going to be pretty competitive. The Padres are coming out to a hot start. The Braves are obviously fully back. The Dodgers are the Dodgers, and the Cubs are swinging and playing really hot, and the Brewers are always good and frisky. So those are like five teams that are pretty poised to be the top five, playoff teams in the National League, and it'll be up to hopefully the Phillies to turn things around. But if they are to get to 86 wins at this point, they need to play 20 games over 500 baseball the rest of the way. They need to go on a win pace of or not a win pace, but they need to finish 20 games over 500 just to give yourself an opportunity. And like John, I don't know about you, but that is a pretty brutal ask to get to 86 wins. They got to go um, 20 over. Like that's a lot. That's it's not impossible when you're really good. That's usually, you play to that level. But the fact that you're digging yourself in this big of a hole, if you don't start turning it around like now, really, and now as in like 3 days ago, you're going to put yourself in a position where it's almost impossible to play yourself out of it. Like you let this continue on for another week or so, and it becomes, oh, we need to go 25 games over 500 to get to like 85, 86 wins. I, you're not going to make the playoffs. Like you're just not. And for a team that every year is ultimately like just get in and we'll figure it out, they are not they're just not looking like they're going to get in right now. And that sucks for a team that we think is full of enough talent to definitely be a playoff team every year, and I don't think anyone can disagree with that. Um, but I just saw a tweet talking about the 2015 Tigers, and it made me go look at them, and it's alarming. The 2015 Tigers had a lot of talented players on it. They had a Miguel Cabrera season that had, a five WAR Miguel Cabrera season, a 5 WAR Ian Kinsler season, a 4 WAR Yoenis Cespedes season, a 5.5 WAR JD Martinez season. They had some pretty brutal guys out there, but like they also had a pitching staff that consisted of, uh, clearly some injuries, some limited innings from guys that are continuous, but like David Price finished second in Cy Young voting. Justin Verlander had 20 starts despite being banged up. Anibal Sanchez, a longtime pro, was on that roster. Joaquim Soria, Al Albuquerque, Blaine Hardy, like simply through and through a very talented team that finished last in the AL Central, winning 74 games. And that is scary. It was Dave Dombrowski's last season with the Detroit Tigers. He got fired in August, and it just there are far too many similarities at the moment in terms of a roster that's talented. You're having some guys that are having a really good season. You're getting a lot of underperformings everywhere, but you're going to look up and down and be like, "Wow, this was really talented." And a Dave Dombrowski led unit that's in maybe a missed window opportunity, like missed window part of their timeline. I really just hope it doesn't turn into that where they're only going to win 74, 75 games and be like in the basement. That would really, really, really suck. Um, so they need to turn it around, and they need to turn around fast.
Well, it could start today.
It could start today. Listen, as every day goes by, they're getting closer to a win. Now we don't know where that win is, but it's yes, the timing, the time is passing, and in fact, they are closer to their win today than they were yesterday and they were the day before, because they just have to win eventually, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, so like to me, um you mentioned how annoyed you were with the people that were like complaining about AJ Brown. I'm kind of annoyed with the people that are like, I told you so. I'm so glad they're so bad because I want to be right kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
That's such weirdo behavior.
yeah. That's really
Um,
annoying because it's
you know,
like you weren't right for years, and now you're finally right, and you're trying to victory lap the whole era. Like there are people out there that genuinely believe Rob Thompson should have been fired after the World Series. Like genuinely, there are people that think he shouldn't have gotten the job for the next year, and then
uh,
should have been fired
but
after
there's just
Arizona.
things
Like,
that they're doing that are just embarrassing, and it's like this is where it's like it's almost like it should like I hate to say like call it we throw the term fireable offense.
mhm.
So a couple days ago, Kevin Long brought up the Phillies' struggles against left-handed pitching. Michael, the Phillies just can't hit left-handed pitching. They have a sub 600 OPS against
It's
left-handed
nothing
pitching.
new. Like this is something that's been going on for
Right.
some time.
So here's what this is what was asked about it, and I can't believe he admitted to this. This is where it's like, dude, you don't say this.
Mm-hmm.
Quote. This is from the article. Charlotte Varnes in The Athletic put a piece out Wednesday night. Quote, to Long, the struggles partly come back to the lack of a lefty batting practice arm. The Phillies were without one until a few days ago when Logan Matthew joined the team. Long, who would typically throw lefty batting practice, had
Oh,
surgery.
breaking news! Breaking news! Dan Vladar will be starting tonight in Game 4.
Okay, there we go.
Anyways, continue.
When Logan Matthew joined the team, Long, who would typically throw lefty batting practice, had surgery last August and is still unable to throw. Bullpen coach Cesar Ramos and assistant pitching coach Mark Lowy throw lefty batting practice but can't during games. Matthew can. We've just got to practice more against lefty arms and be more efficient. Michael, what the hell did I just read?
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like, is there something to it? Maybe a little bit. Is it like a full-blown, like, reason for you to stink against left-handed pitching? No. Like, you guys are professionals. I can't not having a lefty batting practice thrower should not be, like, why you guys are so bad against it. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I I'm not really sure what to say about that. Like, that's just whatever to me. It just they're not winning, and it's because of everything. You know what I mean? Like, Christopher Sanchez pitched like shit against the Cubs, and it's like, when your ace goes out there and pitches poorly, that's hard to win at any point, and especially when you're in the middle of a huge losing streak, it's brutal. And, like, for a team that was clearly floundering, but they finally battled, it just doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that they came back and tied the game against the Cubs, and Adolis Garcia hit that pinch hit ninth inning home run to tie it again. Like, it doesn't matter that last night they battled back and they jumped out to a lead and whatever, and they threatened and but they couldn't get the big hit. Like, none of it really matters. It doesn't matter if you get no hit today, but you win the game 1-0 because of walks and errors. Like, it just does not remotely matter how it looks at this point. They just need to find a way to win. It does not matter if you win 15-12. It doesn't matter if you win 1-0. It doesn't matter if you win 4-1. You just need to get a win. You need to, like, just know what it feels like to win a baseball game at this point. Like, John, they haven't led after the 6th inning at all during this losing streak. Like, it's not like the classic, "Oh, the bullpen blowing the games all the time." They haven't been winning because, honestly, and as much as this is brutal, the starters haven't been good enough. And, like, that's where I think I'm most kind of upset by this and frustrated by it, where it's like, we knew the lineup could be an issue. That was a given. We knew that there were, while we felt there were some pretty big improvements to the bullpen, we knew that there were some guys that were like, listen, we're putting a lot of stock in a bounce back from Jose Alvarado. We're putting a lot of stock in Tanner Banks replicating what he did last year. Like, we're putting stock into that. And that had general concerns to it. The thing we really weren't super worried about was the starting rotation. We were expecting nails from Christopher Sanchez. We were expecting Jesus Luzardo to put it all together. We were expecting, the bounce back from Aaron Nola. And that, like, Sanchez hasn't been up to his standard. While he hasn't been bad, he's just not been up to his standard. And last start was bad. Luzardo is like he's just having the bad starts that he had last year without mixing in the good starts at the moment, and that's really frustrating. And Aaron Nola, when it's, like, cold, is kinda ass, but when it's not, he's been very good, and, like, that's nothing super new, but it's not, like, full-blown bounce back Aaron Nola. He hasn't been, like, atrocious, but he hasn't been where we want him to be, and it's like, Taijuan Walker's been so bad that he got released. And Andrew Painter, like, every start kind of feels the same, where he looks good through like 3, he battles in the 4th and 5th, and even if things go right, he's still not getting through 6. And last night was a great opportunity. to go 6 innings, 2 runs in Atlanta, and he gave up the big double that you can argue Brandon Marsh should have caught. And it's just like nothing is going their way. The little things aren't going their way. The big things aren't going their way, and no one is good enough right now. No one is consistently showing up and good enough to like to be free of blame, really. Like, even as good as Harper's been, he had some big at bats yesterday that he couldn't get a hit in and got out on. And it's like Schwarber is full blown 2023. And like I know I've said on this podcast, if you hit me 45 home runs, I don't care what your batting average is. And like there is truth to that, but that truth is lied upon the rest of the lineup being good. Like in 2023, we could afford Schwarber hitting under 200 when he hit 40 something home runs because that lineup was just really like still pretty good. You got all-star level Cassidy, you got great season from Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh, and JT was still good, and Trey had the great second half, and Bryce was great all season. Like you could deal with Schwarber being a home run or strikeout. Now Schwarber's making, 30 million a year and is, a huge cog in this lineup that is clearly lacks a lot of depth. If he's going to be hitting 185 but 50 home runs, like it's just not going to be good enough. It's just not going to be what this team needs. So listen, it's not like he's not been a slow starter in his career, but we it's frustrating that a lot of the quirks that are very common with the Phillies, like, oh, Schwarber's a slow starter, Harper can be streaky early on, but it always turns it on in the second half. It's like they just can't afford that right now. They can't afford Schwarber to be a slow starter at the moment. They can't afford streaks from Bryce Harper. They can't afford Aaron Nola not pitching well in the cold. They can't afford that shit. They're 10 under 500 right now. They've lost 10 in a row. That's atrocious. I would do anything for them to be 500 right now. If you could guarantee me every season my favorite team's going to be 500 through like April, I would sign up for it every single time because it's such a tall task ahead of them. And I'm very, very nervine that while I don't think they're going to play this dog shit win pace all season, I don't know if they're going to be able to go on a big enough run to be in the playoffs. And it's like when you start missing the playoffs with this core, it's really hard to know where to go from here as like a team, as like a fan, as like everything. If they're going to go out and miss the playoffs this season, what the hell are you supposed to do next year? You're really going to blow it all up? You're going to, move on from familiar faces, but is your contention window going to be open? Like, we're talking about the end of careers here for some really good players and really great Phillies that if you're just going to waste a season of them for missing the playoffs, that sucks, And I think deservedly so. A good chunk of the blame does fall on, Dave Dombrowski. It's hard not to. I understand that they have like 7 guys that have $100 million contracts, and like that's not nothing, but it just feels like you maybe should have been a little more proactive on moving on from Bohm and not maybe trying to only trade for the moon for him. Like the only Alec Bohm trade packages that were out there that we are confirmed of were Nick Castellanos and Alec Bohm for Kyle Tucker and an Alec Bohm centered package for Mason Miller. And it's like, I don't know, man, you're not getting the best reliever in baseball and like a top like 10 hitter in baseball for Alec Bohm. Like that's just not happening. So there's clearly a middle ground between getting some like slapdick prospects and the best players in baseball for Alec Bohm. Like there was a path here to maybe make a trade and get him off the team and really open up a roster spot to go get somebody else. Like I know it's just like it's not easy, and I know they feel like they got swindled for Bo Bichette, but
He's like
Christ, man,
Boba. Like I'm gonna pull him up. I'm gonna see if he's still.
he's having like an okay start to the year. It's nothing great, it's nothing terrible, but it's like it's definitely not. I don't know. I think a new fresh face could have been something that would have helped. Murakami didn't end up signing for all that much, and while there's concerns with like some of his underlings, he's hitting the shit out of the ball. He's hitting so many home runs where Like if he was on the team, they clearly would
If
have
you would
had
have, if
some
the
more
Phillies
wins.
would have approached Murakami, so can I?
But again, it's a left-handed hitter, so it's like I don't think they were really in the market for trying to get a left-handed hitter because they already have so many. All their good hitters are left-handed. Like
Can
it's
I?
just frustrating.
May I say something?
Please, please, I'm losing my head here.
You know, the Phillies right now definitely feel like they're trending to for like Dave Dombrowski to step away from being uh the head. I guess he's the team president, but he's not a general manager. Like the general manager is technically is Preston Mattingly.
Sure,
I think
he makes the decisions though.
he has final say on baseball decisions. Um, I think this is going to be Dave Dombrowski's last year. I think the game, it's looking like the game has passed him by. You know, much like Andy McPhail when he was here, the game has passed him by. Um, the inability to get trades done, the not great management with the contracts. You know, and I think you look at some of Dombo's comments, I think he's almost begging to be fired because for him saying we don't have a cleanup hitter, I took that as people took that as him being stupid, like saying, well, why would you say that? You're the one that built this team. I think he said that as a shot to the owner, John Middleton, saying, well, you wouldn't let me spend more money to bring in. I would have brought us a cleanup hitter if you would have let me spend more money.
Right.
That's how I interpreted that. And we are taking kind of like passive aggressive shots at the owner. That's how you get fired, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if he was allowed to spend his way out of Boston, if he was allowed to by John Henry, he would have. But at the same time, Michael, the Phillies have the second or third highest payroll in baseball still.
I mean, the payroll is like it's top whatever. Like that's why it's so annoying because it's like it's not like they're not spending money. You know, they're not like the Red Sox over here. You know what I mean? Like you can argue maybe, and that's like this is like a philosophy thing with them that maybe they should have been more willing to give out shorter term contracts. Maybe they should be more willing to include opt-outs in some of the deals and not be so anti it. And it's like I get not wanting to do that. You don't want to like not feel like you're getting your full return on investment. You don't want to lose the players that you sign. But it's like if that's kind of how big deals are getting done nowadays and
Works
you
out
know the
great for the
best
Dodgers.
the best players that you can get are like Trey Turner in terms of a guy that's not going to, you know, kill you for an opt-out, then maybe you need to be a little more open. Maybe you need to be more willing to do what the Mets did for Bichette or what the Dodgers did for Tucker. And again, 40 million, it's not nothing. Like that's a lot. So they were probably never going to do it, but like I don't know. I just don't know. Like, are they going to
I
panic in
mean,
the
my thing
offseason
is,
and just sign
my
Bichette?
so like not you brought up like Murakami, like dude, the Phillies, like you're saying, like oh the Phillies just had so many good like all their hitters are lefties. Michael, they were trying to sign Imai this offseason. The Phillies need another starting pitcher.
Well, I mean, the way it looks so far, I don't think it would have hurt. You know
Well,
what I
he's done.
mean?
Well, he could be done for the season now. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know. He's having a tough transition. And like a lot of pitchers that come over from Japan tend to take like a year.
Like
Um,
bro, like that's the and it's like oh we almost signed him. Oh, we almost got Bo Bichette. It's like we gave Danny Briere crap for this, and what did Danny do? The Flyers did they pivoted to their farm system, right?
mhm, mhm.
Bro, what prospects have the Phillies seriously traded since Dombo got here that or like the
Uh,
farm
I
system
mean,
fair?
like Mick Abel and Eduardo Taic got moved, and like that was not nothing. Like that was a pretty significant prospect trade
Tait's
off.
at least 2 years away from the big leagues.
Listen, I don't disagree with you, but like they traded a guy that's currently pitching, you know, for the Twins, and like I it's one of those things where, like, there are things that Dombo deserves credit for, like, he was able to trade some prospects that were pretty much nothing to acquire, like, Jesus Luzardo, and, like, that was really nice, and able to make some moves like that, but ultimately, in terms of, like, putting finishing touches on a roster, they failed, and it's like you know, the Whit Merrifield signing that we all knew wasn't gonna work out, and the Max Kepler signing that we were all hesitant for and didn't work out, and, like, I'm still gonna jury's still out on Adolis Garcia. I think he actually again, he's still hitting the ball hard, he's still having some good at bats, and I think he's bringing energy to a team that has, like, none of it. Um, so I'm not gonna, like, kill him for that at the moment, but it's like we forget, like, Corey Knable was a guy that they signed that ended up not being remotely useful at all, and, like, they it it's just it just seems like nothing is going right. When you're in this position, like, nothing's going right. It's like Duran getting hurt and Jonathan Bowlen getting hurt. Like, that sucks. Those were, 2 guys that just be nice to have. Like, you look at the way they lost the Cubs game. Obviously, Sanchez sucked, but it's like you're in extra innings and you're throwing Tanner Banks in there, and it's like, man, it just would have been nice at some point to have been able to throw some guys that you had pretty decent expectations for entering the season. So I don't know, man. I don't really know where you go from here. If it stays like this bad, I do think that Thompson's going to get the axe, which is just tough. But if you're like 15 games under 500, like I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do at that point. Um, I don't know if like they're going to make some panic trade to try to switch up the mojo or something, but it does feel like Thompson, if it stays this bad, would be the one to go, and like that would just that'd be hard. But seems like Dusty Wathan would maybe get the role as the manager before Don Mattingly does. But again, we'll cross that bridge. Who knows, man? Like if we don't do another show till Saturday or Sunday, and things are still this dire, like we could very well have a new manager by the next time we talk about the Phillies,
Yeah,
and
I
like
mean,
that
here's the
sucks.
thing though. I mean, here's the thing too is like you look at a lot of the Phillies issues. We didn't really touch on them too much, other than it was like so the Phillies. A lot of their issues we talk about in baseball, doing the little things like turning routine double plays. Um,
John, it's everything. Like, it is the little things. Like, Justin Crawford's been like kind of a disaster in center field defensively. Like, he's been asked. Like, full stop. He's gotten some bad and again, not to like clown on the rookie or whatever, but it's like here's a guy that would profile really well to play left field, and we're putting him in center field, and he's just adjusting. He's learning. He's struggling at it. They haven't gotten many hits with runners in scoring position in a while, and like I know that's something that everyone loves to talk about as a big thing, even though they were good at it last year. But like this year, they're like hitting like 212 with the bases loaded, and like that'll kill you. Like Kyle
I mean,
Schwarber came up in
how much
spots
of
and
this?
struck
How
out.
much? I mean, how much of this do you think is related to pressure and like nerves of like, oh, this is our like the last dance, quote unquote. If we don't get it done, we're not
I,
gonna.
I think I think there's some guys that are pressing. I think Bohm's a big one because I think the contract year is like hurting him in a negative way. Like
I think the
his off
lawsuit
the
with
field stuff. Yeah, I
I
think it's
think his
both.
off the field issues are playing a massive part in it. And I kind of touched on this. I tweeted this out, and I wasn't like me. I wasn't like a lot of people that were like f bomb, get rid of like people saying a lot of nasty things about him. I was more like, dude, if you're not in the right headspace to play,
Don't
then
play. Like
he should not play. He needs to get
again, it's the
his
pressure
life
of a
in order.
contract year. You don't want to. You just lost money and like you're
He's
trying
losing
to.
it. Michael, he's off to one of the worst starts ever a hitter's had in the live ball era of baseball. Michael, the last hitter to have a bad of a start as Alec Bohm has had to the season, wait, no. William McKinley was president.
Yeah, so like he's been
So
horrible, and I think he's clearly got a lot on in his plate, and it's not boding well for him. Like Justin Crawford after the first few series where he was looking really good, he's like definitely even keeled it out. Like the
Well, here's
ground
the
ball.
thing:
Right.
if the veterans are struggling, if Bryce, Trey, Bryson Stott are struggling on defense, and we're going to kill Crawford,
Well,
is it?
Stott's not struggling on defense, but it's eh, it's just everything. Like
Like,
it's
do you follow me? Like, if it to me, it's like, I mean, they all seem to like Topper, but
they love Topper.
you kind of get the impression, like, I hate to say this. I feel like in baseball, this happens like all the time. Whenever you have like a player's manager, that's not like the most fiery guy, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
Hmm.
that's not, in a 10-game lose streak, might just like after they get in the locker room and just basically rip everybody for all their BS and
Yeah, I
say, like,
mean,
what the
it's
hell's
just
going on? You need to start playing better, as opposed to them just kind of like, not, I want to say going through the motions, but just like you're out there playing scared. Like, you need to, like, I know,
someone's got to say something,
like,
and I think
fire, like, basically fire the guys up to play, right?
yeah, I think
Hopper's not
I
that
think
guy.
it needs to be
Hopper is
Bryce.
not that guy. I don't think Don Mattingly's that guy.
No, I think it needs to be Bryce. I think Bryce needs to have like a serious yelling at everybody where it's like and he can make it selfish because he's like earned the right to, even though fans wouldn't want to hear it. But it's this is like this is an era of our legacy here that everyone is in here, like their legacies are very dependent, and his especially, on like what this team can accomplish. And us just pouting around and like doing dumb shit in the field every game and doing dumb shit on the bases every game and not getting the big hit and blowing games out of the bullpen and starters not pitching deep into games. Like it's truly I can't excuse anybody. Like everyone has played a role in some respect. For every like good at bats that Marsh has, he has like the defensive mess up that like screws up the whole game yesterday. He really had an opportunity to make a great catch and he just completely whiffed on the ball and like that was it. They couldn't get a run. And you know, Harper coming up in a big spot pops out in the first pitch. Schwarber has come up in countless big spots and he's just striking out. Like he's not putting good at bats together. He's missing pitches that are like virtually right down the middle and then he's chasing at something to strike out and it's frustrating. Like ultimately, if those 3 guys at the top start really cooking, they're probably gonna start winning some games, but not all 3 have been cooking at the same time, and it's just the frustrating is, like, the best word that I can come up with, where I'm just sitting here praying they win a game. Like, I need to see them win a game to, like, reset myself, and we'll see. I'll be at the Flyers game, so I'm not gonna be able to watch, um, the Phillies game tonight, but here's to hoping and praying that they can finally get a win. But we're definitely going a little long here today. I think we should wrap it up before I have an aneurysm.
Yeah, so no Michael's 3 stars this week.
Yeah,
Maybe we
no,
just,
because who the hell could be a 3 star at this point? Like, there's just no 3 stars when you're on a 10-game losing streak.
uh, you know, so Zach Wheeler's back on the. We'll end with this. Zach Wheeler, he's back on the bump. It's a shame their
I
Phillies had been such a rough start, because I feel like if we were like 3 or 4 games above 500, we would all be juiced for
Yeah,
today. Oh, Flyers sweeping the pen, chance to sweep the pens, and Wheeler's first start back, because he's going to come back. He should, like, I hate to say this, and I think this will still happen. He should get a standing ovation coming back, because he came back from a very serious injury.
I mean, from who? From the Braves fans?
Oh, that's right. There are in Atlanta. Shoot, I
Yeah,
forgot.
yeah, they're not right now. No,
Oh, geez, my bad. Sorry.
no, you're fine. It's just like what is like what are fair expectations to put on him for today? You know what I mean?
4 innings, 3 earned runs, 5 Ks.
That's just not enough. I'm just like, and I
I
know
mean, it's
that's
his
not
first
fair.
major league start. You shouldn't have him throw 100
They're just not
pitches,
winning
right?
that game. Like, I'm sorry, they're not winning a game where he gives up 3 runs over 4 innings. It's not
But you know
happening.
what? You know what, Michael? If they go out, well, if they win today, like, let's say like 10-2, We'll just say that, right? They went
I,
10-2.
I'd be enthralled.
Don't you if I'm the Phillies like media director or something, am I gonna put out there like, oh wow, like Zach Wheeler is just so important to our team. He's now back with the team. Everyone let the demeanor change with Zach now.
That's what I'm really hoping for. That like the adult is back, and like the guy that is always nails. And it's unfair, but it's like I don't know how many innings he can realistically throw. I don't know if he's got a pitch count, but it's like no runs, man. Like no runs from Zach. I'm sorry, but like I need to turn the ball over to the bullpen for once with a 0 on the board for the other team. I can't keep. I think it's impossible, but it feels like they're not gonna like shut anybody out this year, and like that's just upsetting. You're going up against Bryce Elder, like just please hit Bryce Elder and just please Zach Wheeler give me whatever you can give me without run scoring. But anyways, enough of this. The Flyers. Let's finish a sweep today. Let's bring some positivity to the city that desperately could use it. And we'll see you when we see you. Whenever that comes around. Maybe we'll need to do an emergency Phillies related podcast this week if something dire is happening. But that'll be it for today. Hopefully the Flyers finish a sweep. Hopefully the Sixers get back in the series. Hopefully Embiid's back. And we'll talk to you. Thank you all for tuning in.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.